Interactional View by Lindsay Womack. What is interactional view? Interactional view is an extensive research on how communication is effective within families. The theory explains how interpersonal relationships are complicated and there's no easy way to explain why family members do what they do. I know we all have one family member we just don't understand why they do, say, or think some of the things that they do. While we do not understand this theory does not focus on what they do, but rather how we react and how we are affected by what they do. Creator of the interactional view. Paul Wasilewicz, born on July 25, 1921, born in Australia and moved to the U.S. later in life. Paul was known as a family therapist and psychologist. He was also known as one of the most influential figures at the Mental Research Institution. Wasilewicz was inspired by anthropologist Gregory Bateson and his work. Wasilewicz and a few other scholars wanted to study interpersonal communication as a system rather than the traditional linear model. And what the traditional linear model is basically sending and receiving messages. This is how we get the interaction theory, because essentially everyone plays a part in communication. No one person sets the tone. Individuals must be understood as a part of the family. Before we start talking about axioms and how they affect our interpersonal communications, let's talk about games. What are games? Games are sequences of behavior governed by rules. What are rules? All families have rules that they play by. This is how your family reality comes about. These rules can be the way we handle conflict, the way we do holidays, and most importantly, how we do communication. So let's go ahead and move into axioms. Axioms, what are they? There are 4 axioms that determine how well we effectively communicate with our family. The first is one cannot communicate. So basically what this is saying is sometimes we would rather not communicate, but we feel obligated to talk. So you cannot not communicate when it comes to communicating with family. The second thing is communication equals content plus relationship. Content is verbally, what is actually said, provides information. The second thing is relationship. Relationship is nonverbal. How is the message interpreted? How was it received? Facial expressions, body language is relationship. These things both influence how our family can feel and how they can be affected by the things that we communicate. The third axiom that was discussed in this theory is the nature of relationship depends on how parties punctuate the communication sequence. And what this basically is how the interaction begins. So not necessarily how the interaction starts, but how the events lead up to each other. They're usually ongoing sequence of events that lead up to how a person punctuates the communication. And the last one is all communication is either symmetrical or commentary. And basically what this means is how people see themselves. They're either reacting or provoking. Let's dig a little deeper. No place to go. Sometimes we get trapped in these ways of life just because that's the way things have always been done. Families are the number one trap when it comes to change. Most families are very reluctant to change, especially if they have done these things and operated this way for a number of years. And each person plays a role in things not changing. In the book, it uses an example of an addict. And each role that was listed, you had an enabler, someone who allows the behavior. And then you had your denier, someone who doesn't want to accept the behavior. And then you had your hero, someone who kind of takes the focus off of the addict. So each member plays a role in things not changing and things staying the way that they are. And then you have your double binds. Basically, a double bind is when a person is expected to feel or do something simply because of the relationship that they have with someone. We expect people to do things for our sake, and it leaves that person in a no-win situation. An example would be if someone wanted to borrow some money from you, that can put you in a double bind because, or if you wanted to borrow money from someone rather than them borrowing it for you, and it was an expectation because of who that person was to you. And so basically, you put that person in a no-win situation. It's either they can give you the money and then feel bad about it, or they cannot give you the money and they still feel bad because they feel like that they didn't meet that expectation that was set for them. And so while families don't want to change, and a lot of families are stuck in their ways and traditions, we have to learn to reframe, which brings us to our next point of digging deeper into this communication with family. And basically, when we reframe, we have to change the game, change the rules. We have to change the way things have always been done, and challenge those expectations that we set on people. And we have to learn to start seeing situations for what they are. And basically, you want to see what's in front of you. You want to see if someone's being unrealistic or immature or not handling a situation the way that it should be handled. It's time. Reframing allows you to start um, basically changing. It basically allows you to change the things that are around you that have always been the way that they are. Takeaway. While I know interpersonal relationships can be complicated and we don't always understand why people do what they do, we should understand individuals must be part of a family system, and we should try not to focus on what they do, but yet how it affects the family or the group. And as we learned that each family creates its own rules, we should use the four axioms to help us communicate effectively. This will help us not only communicate better, but help us seek change and learn refrain. Thank you and goodbye.